for this bill?
For the
bill. Agri?
Yes, because it will wipe out all this and it will lead to companies buying up land. So it will be enabling
with another interesting topic to discuss.
I can't hear.
Just a minute. Ramesh, you are mute.
Yeah, just bear with me. Just bear with me.
Did we start or not?
It started, but it's not going. Our signal is not going through. Just bear with me. Can you speak, Jagdishji? Can you be on the...
Friends?
Wait a minute. No, I don't know why I'm getting Dr. Swamy alone. 1 minute. Just 1 second. Okay, yes. Now you can start, Jagdishji. Start.
From the beginning?
Yeah.
Friends, it's another Sunday and 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and Virat Hindustan Sangam is back with its weekly show, Gyan Ganga Words of Wisdom. And we have, as usual, Dr. Subramanian Swamy with us. And we are going to have a discussion today on 3 important issues. That is the diplomatic relations of UAE and other Islamic nations with Israel, the new agriculture bills, and the importance of Maldives role in our neighborhood. Friends, there have been some minor technical difficulties. I hope you will bear with us. And with this, I will request our viewers to be, in case we face further difficulties, please bear with us. With this, I would request Dr. Swamy to make his opening remarks on the improvement of relations with Israel by the Middle East Arabic Islamic countries.
Well, you see, this is a major international development that Arab nations, which I mean Sunni, there would have to therefore have ambassadors, be part of all the embassy gatherings, and ambassadors gather on special occasions for of the UAE, and so to legitimize Israel, they needed diplomatic relations. So this is a major development. It's not that the Israelis will be new to UAE, but it certainly their status will be entirely different. And they now can fly from from Tel Aviv to Dubai and Abu Dhabi over Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia has also given this permission. The first permission they gave actually for Air India to fly over Saudi Arabia to go to Tel Aviv. But this is the second, but in this sense, it's an even much more a big step, because the fact of the matter is that Israel, El Al, will be flying, and Saudi Arabia has accepted. That's a very big thing. And so the legitimization, the residual legitimization that remained for Israel has now been is now being completed, and Israel is now become as an accepted member of the international community in that section which was very hostile to them. Now, Israel coming there has several impacts. One is for them, desalination of seawater, for example, has made a big difference already in a clandestine way, which came to Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and all. You see greenery and greenery. And that's because of desalination of seawater. They don't have rivers. So desalination has been a big thing. Israel is now introducing drip irrigations and so on. So there are a lot of economic benefits for the Arab countries, because oil may not be now, it's gradually going to be replaced by other energy sources like hydrogen fuel cells and so on. So naturally, these countries are thinking of building a new base for their economy. So from that point of view, it has been an extremely good for us also, because Israel is a friend, and it has some side effects which will also be beneficial for us. Israel has a very strong intelligence power, and that intelligence power can be used for the money launderers, Dawood Ibrahim's gang, and so much. And in fact, in my opinion, the impact of Dawood Ibrahim on India will vastly reduce once Mossad and Shin Bet and others start moving in these Arab countries. Now, after the Abu Dhabi, after UAE, Israel was recognized by Bahrain, Sudan, and I'm told that Morocco and Tunisia is in the near future. And most people are of the view that Saudi Arabia itself, in principle, has accepted to do it, but its timing is what it is concerned about. What is at the core of this sudden change? And that in there, India has to give some real serious thought. And that is, this appears to be the Trump-Israel combination about Iran. From day one, you found that Trump was very anti-Iran. And then Iran's sympathetic, I can say, if not directly promoted, but sympathetic terrorist organizations like Hezbollah and so on. These are playing havoc in, say, countries like Lebanon. So I think there is a feeling in Saudi Arabia and UAE. These are all what they call as kingdom states. and the Palestinian movement and the Iranian movement, they are anti, kingdoms and anti-royalty ruled states. So there's always a feeling that they could be destabilized from inside. And the way Iran can be tackled according to these countries, I'm giving you my opinion. This is not based on anything I've read officially from these countries. They think that if Shia Sunni division is sharpened, and it has been sharpened now by Pakistan, which has had a huge rally of Sunni Muslims and terrorized the Shias in Pakistan. We in our country have had very good relations with the Shia community. Even when I was in Jansang, when it was we were a force of sorts in UP and places like that. There used to be riots on the Muharram, which is the Shia festival or Shia event, and invariably there used to be riots and where Shias used to get killed. But with the rise of the Jansang and later on BJP, the Shias got support, and even in Kargil and places like that, there are Shias. So the Shia generally, and even in Ram Mandir case, you know that Shias have come out open support that give us some other place and we'll build a masjid. But we don't want to stand in the way of the Hindus getting the Ram Mandir and to rebuild it. So we have a commitment in this country to the Shia minorities. And just as we looked after the Jews and the Parsis, I think we may have to look after the Shias too. And that would be not consonance with the new grouping that is taking place in West Asia. So, but on the whole, Israel and India are now paka friends. I mean, you can't be more friendly than we are today. And it's based on a durable basis that the Jews and the Hindus have a long affinity. And therefore, it's a solid base. And Israel is formally a Jewish state. India is not formally a Hindu state, although the constitution has lots of Hindu elements in it. So for us, I think we can straddle both sides while be protective of the Shias in our country. We can continue to celebrate what has happened in the Middle East. I think in balance, it has been a great step forward for us, in particularly in, if we want to do anything to Pakistan in the future, it will be a great support for us. This is as far as UAE-Israel relationship and its fallout by having other Arab countries one by one. There'll be more announcements very soon. And I'm sure that this is going to have a very positive effect for Trump in his electioneering in the United States.
Doctor, will this have your last sentence is, will this have a big impact on the presidential elections in USA?
Well, I mean, see, the Democratic vote will only break off to the extent that the whites who vote for the Democrats and business interests, which are huge business interests in these Arab states, they would be much more assured if this Israel presence is solidified or consolidated. So there would be a certain shift, I wouldn't say a big shift, in Democratic vote to Trump, but his own base would be much more. There are people who have Republicans who have some doubts, some grievances about Trump. That will get horribly reduced. I mean, terribly, in a big way, significantly reduced. And so he stands to gain. And he also, people will say he may be rough, he may be, speak all kinds of things. But when it comes to action, Trump has been successful in foreign policy. He has more or less pacified North Korea. He has, reduced the U.S. expenditure in Europe for military purposes, and he has put China on notice. So these are things which are very popular issues in the United States. So overall, Trump is a gainer by this.
Okay, Dr. Swamy, can we go on to the next topic of the agriculture bills?
Yes. See, I have criminals of the country as zamindars and told them that you can collect as much revenue as you want from the farmers, but a fixed amount should be given to the British Indian government for running the administration. So, and they said that if the farmer is unable to pay in any year, you can ask him to give his other assets. You can ask him to give his wife's jewels. And even if that had been exhausted, then his brother, his relatives who had land, they also could be then, their land could be taken. So this way, the zamindari system came into being. And it was a purely exploitative thing. And that's why in the freedom struggle, Sardar Patel persuaded Mahatma Gandhi to make this as a major item, that the moment we come to power, we will abolish the zamindari system. So we did. And as soon as we came to power, we abolished the zamindari system. But then Gandhi went away and was assassinated. Sardar Patel died, and Nehru was left all to himself. And he, instead of further liberating the agriculture, he adopted the Soviet model, which meant extracting resources from agriculture and using it for industrialization. This was the Stalinist model there, and this is exactly what he did. And agriculture had no resources at all. It was the most impoverished agriculture at that time, in addition to the Chinese. And we slowly can reach a situation where one day when there was a drought, we ran out of, we didn't have enough grain and rice to feed our people. So we had to beg the United States under PL 480 to send it. And after Jawaharlal Nehru's departure, Lal Bahadur Shastri then called some scientists like M.S. Swaminathan, and he appointed C. Subramanian as the agriculture minister, and gave them a mandate, find how we can increase our production, because the world prediction was that India will never be able to feed its people, and they will one day probably go back to cannibalism. And this was a book written by two brothers of the State Department of the United States called Paddock and Paddock. Even today you can get it from Google. So Lal Bahadur Shastri accepted the suggestion of this team that he had set up, that we should now target the top 10% of the farmers, and sort of everybody together, and give them a package of assurance, fixed new seeds to get from Philippines and get from America, World Food Research Institute in Washington DC, and promise irrigation, all these things, fixed amounts. The package was prepared, and it was given to the well-to-do farmers, who then produced the Green Revolution. So 1965 prediction was that we will never be able to feed ourselves, and we'll kill each other to eat food, get food. And in 1975, we became self-sufficient in food grains, and have been self-sufficient in food grains ever since. So we should have taken a cue from that and completely modernized agriculture to become the lead sector, because it had that time 70% of the labor was in agriculture, and of course 70% of the population also was living in agriculture. And agriculture, the yield per acre was one of the lowest in the world, and India was so gifted that you could do agriculture 3 times a year, 3 seasons you can have, because there was no snowfall, nothing like the United States. 5 months you can't do any agriculture because there's snowfall. And your cows, you had 150 million cows, and these produce this what is now called as the A2 milk, which is the most nourishing milk. And but they were so emaciated, they were producing 200 liters per year, whereas an Israeli cow was producing 11,000 liters per year. So imagine 150 million cows producing 11,000 liters of milk in every year. So all these were neglected because this is a 5-year plan. And when Chandrasekhar came to power, all that we could do was, sort of denationalize some companies and public sector units and give more freedom. But it was Narasimha Rao who made a clean break with the past. And that's why the 40-year growth of 3.5% per year GDP went up to 8%. Now that should have continued. That did not continue. Now we have this problem that because of the land reform brought under communist influence during Jawaharlal Nehru's time and Indira Gandhi's time, land has either got fragmented because you didn't allow any size.
Yeah, okay.
We at Virat Hindustan Sangam are facing some technical difficulties on the internet. So what we are doing is we had finished the topic number 1 on Israel. The topic number 2, Dr. Swamy gave us a background.
Jagdish, one second. Let me make sure that we are getting the signal, okay? Just trying to bring it back. I know, YouTube. Yeah, I know, 1 minute. Jagdish, I'm not getting the.
Okay, then we'll disconnect and we'll tweet.
Yeah, tweet.
Why? Just bear with me. I'm going to try once more. Yeah, no, Jagdish, we're not getting.
Okay.
So we have to make an announcement. Sorry, today.
We'll make it by Twitter.